What do the Chinese have on him?
We've known he's compromised for quite some time. We've seen him actually openly admit to tampering with cases that include his son. He has found that there's links to over $1.3 million that was deposited from a Chinese-linked company into at least 4 accounts of the Bidens. The fact that we have $1 trillion owned of debt by the Chinese is alarming to us because they basically use our own currency against us to get interest payments.
Well, this was also a very busy week in Washington. House Republicans demanded answers from President Joe Biden on his family's potential links to Chinese enterprises set to benefit the government's bailout of the failed Silicon Valley Bank. Georgia Congressman Rich McCormick and 19 of his colleagues say that the American people deserve to know if shady business deals with communist China have influenced Joe Biden's decisions and policymaking. Would you please welcome to the show, from the state of Georgia, Congressman Rich McCormick. Well, Congressman, it's been a pretty busy week, I think, in Washington. I want to get to the big story of the week that's coming out of the political world. Former president has been apparently indicted. He's going to have to go to New York to be processed. I'm wondering, did the Democrats have any idea how that is being received across the country by most rational people who just look at this and say, boy, this is just weaponization of this justice system?
Well, especially when this has been vetted twice before already, been found to have no basis or merit. The fact that somebody's using this to launch their political career to the next echelon. And I think most people who are moderates or independents will see right through this. The people who want to see him prosecuted, of course, will cheer them on, and it will end up in just wasting more taxpayer money and wasting more time.
And I think for many people, the tragedy is he has been relentlessly pursued. This was a prosecutor who said in his election bid, I'm going to go after Donald Trump. When did a prosecutor first name targets before he even got elected and before he even had discovered a crime? That's unprecedented.
Well, again, it's been vetted already. This is a dead end. I think the ironic part is it's going to launch Trump into the next evolution of his candidacy. I think he's going to be more popular than ever.
I think you're probably right. Speaking of popularity, somebody that's not as popular as they once were is Joe Biden. His numbers have tanked. I mean, this week they went down yet again, and I think people are beginning to be really concerned. What do the Chinese have on him? The more we begin to find out, I know that you're involved in a lot of the committees that are investigating the relationship of communist China to the United States. What level of concern do you have that we may have a compromised president?
Well, we've known he's compromised for quite some time. We've seen him actually openly admit to tampering with cases that included his son. Yeah. We've seen what his son has done overseas. I can't believe that's still dead-ended and it hasn't really come to the next level of prosecution when you have so much evidence. Yeah. It shows the corruption. But right now, the Oversight Committee has found that there's links to over $1.3 million that was deposited from a Chinese-linked company into at least 4 accounts of the Bidens, including 3 children, as well as an unnamed Biden, which may be the president himself. So we have real questions on whether he's been influenced, whether that had to do with the reimbursements from the bank, and what the next steps are going to be from here is only going to be through the investigation process.
It's very troubling to me, Congressman, that Joe Biden said openly on the debate stage, and he's said since, he had no idea of anything his son was doing, had no connection, never talked to his son about business deals. I'm not sure there's anybody who believes that.
I don't think he believes it. I think if you look at the evidence, the overwhelming evidence that he's been named in conversations, if they did an honest investigation, this would be the biggest story ever. Imagine if the tables were turned, it was Trump that had the same allegations. The news cycles would be endless.
If Trump had done what apparently Biden has done in these deals with the Communist Chinese Party while he was in office, quite frankly, I'd probably be saying, yeah, he needs to be investigated and perhaps indicted for this stuff that they've got. I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding. People are getting their heads banged to death in New York City, and this prosecutor is going after Donald Trump for something that has already gone beyond the statute of limitations. I'm not sure how he even takes this case to court without getting laughed out of a courtroom, except that it's in New York.
Imagine the impeachment process that they spent so much money and time on that came to nothing. And that was far less than anything they have on Biden already.
China wants to bring us down. And right now they're doing a pretty good job. And there are countries that are already deciding to move the international currency from the dollar to the Chinese yuan. A lot of Americans say, well, so what? Tell us, what is the so what of that?
Right now, the American U.S. dollar is the standard for business around the world. If you want to destabilize our currency, and think about when you use yen to transfer money between Iran or with Saudi Arabia, which, by the way, now are starting to have a combined economy as they start to do dealings with, or Russia buying stuff from China or vice versa, and you start using the yen. First of all, realize the yen is a fiat currency. They have $52 trillion worth of debt, which is $20 trillion more than we have. We have a big problem.
Yeah.
They have a smaller GDP than us, which means their economy shouldn't sustain that kind of debt, but yet it does. They have a central banking system that pays into their own system, so they don't really pay the same interest the way we do. Our Federal Reserve is neither federal, nor is it a reserve. And the fact that we have $1 trillion owned of debt by the Chinese is alarming to us because they basically use our own currency against us to get interest payments. So I know it's a lot of complexities I just threw out there, but basically, if you start to destabilize the dollar and start to make the yen, which is a fiat currency, become a standard in the world, we will definitely become second rate as far as a world power goes. Look at what China's doing all around the world right now. They're established in the Western Hemisphere now. Panama, Chile, Argentina. Look what they're doing in Africa. They have 50 deep water ports that can sustain the biggest aircraft carriers. We have 2 that can build them. The things they're doing around the world with this trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars is destabilizing the globe in a very, very dangerous way.
It would sound to me, from everything you've just said and the things we hear all the time, we better keep our eyes on China and quit acting like they are our friend, because they are not. And I think it's one of the troubling things about seeing the business dealings that Joe Biden has with them. Congressman, I got to tell you, I find you one of the most refreshing people I've met in politics in a while. It is a delight to have you here. You got to promise you'll come back.
Absolutely.
And visit again, because you make sense. You make sense, and we need more people who can do that. What a pleasure to have you.
It's a blessing. I got to tell you, I've been following you for a very long time. Your daughter also, who's a wonderful human being and who I really admire. It is a blessing to be on your show. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you, Congressman. What an honor. Now, for our audience, you can follow Congressman Rich McCormick on social media and keep up with all the work that he's doing for the people of Georgia and, frankly, for all of us. And those links, as always, you can find at Huckabee.tv. Hey, Mike Huckabee here. Listen, if you love your mom, apple pie, and being conservative, you know you ought to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and click the like button, and show all the leftists out there that conservatives are thriving and patriotism is far from dead. Am I pandering too much? No way. I'm just getting started.